Hey, hi there guys, Warren here. Today I want to talk about when families are at fault for mistreating what we often mistakenly or sometimes intentionally call normal. And I've been reading this book now by Dr. Rami Kaminski, a psychiatrist in New York, practicing in New York. Titled The Gift of Not Belonging. And I've done several episodes in review of the book or as a review of the book. Just inspirational read, really. And it talks about OTROVERts, and I'll read the definition of that for you here shortly. But families are at fault for so many things. And I say that not with joy, but with some trepidation and sadness, because we're supposed to be able to go to our families in times of sadness and indifference, and often it's not that way. They're the ones who, along with society, puts us in boxes with often very sticky, irreversible, irremovable labels. But let me get to the definition, and then we'll get into our talk, and it will make more sense to you. So an OTROVERT embodies the personality trait of non-belonging, remaining an eternal outsider in a communal world. Unlike those with relational disorders, OTROVERTs are empathetic and friendly, yet struggle to truly belong in social groups, despite no apparent behavioral distinctions from well-adjusted individuals. An OTROVERT. Now, here is why, and this, like I don't know if I said it yet, but this will be the last episode I'll do based out of ideas from the book, so I can get through the book too. My wife wants to read it. But we go to our families for support systems, and often our families are the ones, along with society, like I say, who puts us in these boxes. And there's so many examples in the book that are so sad, where families misunderstand their children or loved ones because of that definition that I just read you. Society does enough of it. Society does enough of it. The medical field does enough of it, of misunderstanding what it is they see, and so misdiagnosing or not diagnosing at all what it is they see. And so people live their lives not sure who they are because they've been told that they are not normal. But I covered the other issues in the other episodes, but I wanted to talk in this one about specifically when it is our already dysfunctional families that makes joining and togetherness what he talks about in the book. I didn't read the full episode, but it's how outsiders thrive in a world of joiners, the gift of not belonging. And it's bad enough that society wants us to join and wants us to be together, and when families wants that too, and I support that. When it is constructive and healthy, I support that. But when it is a dysfunctional family, you say, come on, Warren, almost all families are dysfunctional in some way, and that might be true. But to my point then, if you know that to be true, you support that notion, then when dysfunctional families are already dysfunctional when it comes to togetherness, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Thanksgiving, where everyone is already walking around on eggshells because they know it's only a matter of time before Uncle X says that one thing that gets everybody on edge, or Aunt Y brings up an issue that everybody had forgotten and forgiven about, and then it just explodes. And what was to be happy togetherness is now not that. So when it's already that way, it makes it twice as tough for the already struggling introvert that is visiting, that didn't really want to, that would rather be at home, curled up on the sofa, mismatched sweats, house slippers, with a good book. And now you have them there struggling, emotionally struggling. And I'm smiling and being a little coy about it, but I don't mean to, because it's serious. When they're already there struggling, and you know that you've put them in this box of being the abnormal one. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you've heard terms like, why can't you be like your sister? Why can't you be more like your friends? Why don't you do the things your friends do? Right? Those are the things that our parents, either intentionally, inadvertently, unintentionally, and I would gently let them off the hook, us off the hook, that it wasn't intentional when we were saying things like that or had things like that said to us. And then here's what it does. When the parent or the medical system or society cannot figure it out, the medical system anyway, over-medicates these folks. I'm an introvert, but happily I don't fall into having to have been medicated field to figure it out. But you read this book and there's some sad examples. But then the medical field, like I was saying, over-medicates with very potent drugs, often when there's absolutely nothing wrong, because people are just misunderstood, and because the patient doesn't know how to necessarily explain themselves. They too fall into, okay, the doc is saying it's this thing, so it must be this thing. And then you go to, and it really is so sad, because I don't know if you guys know, I'll try to find it and put it up, but it's an elephant, a cartoon of an elephant with I think 7 or 9 blind men interrogating the elephant, and all of them eventually touch all the primary parts of the elephant, and all of them had a different perspective on what it is. And we use that example so much in business and professional realms to teach how to think outside the box and how to think differently. We use that, a cartoon of an elephant, but we won't believe our own children or our own child when they say, I just see and feel differently when I'm with a lot of people. And there's nothing abnormal about it, Mom, Dad. But we will use that elephant to teach resiliency and professional thinking outside, breaking groupthink. But we won't believe a patient that says, I just don't want to be here. I feel very uncomfortable in crowds. But anyway, I digress back to families. When the family knows this, and they too support this, because I think one of the biggest breakdown is listening. Because I'm reading the book, and I think one of the biggest things, other than being an introvert himself, that Dr. Rami is doing is just listening to his patients of what they're saying, they're experiencing, and why they think they're experiencing that. And half the time, the changes he makes requires no drugs or extensive therapy. I mean, there is therapy, but not like you're probably thinking. But I mean, an introvert already feels lonely. We're not alone, but we feel lonely because we have to play this role. We have to fit in that society says, and like I said, even more problematic when our parents say it. And this performance to us is exhausting to the point where people become bedridden and just give up. Another example in the book, talented people, because families with our dysfunctionalities, or sometimes even in very stable families, because some of the examples in the book are stable families, just don't take the time to listen to each other, to understand that sometimes what our eyes see isn't necessarily what it is at first. I often say our limbic system is towards the back, but it's always front and center in everything. First impressions, first analysis, because we see threat in any form. In this context, threat being, oh, there's something wrong with my child, and so I have to fix them. And then our prefrontal cortex, like we say in the Army, have to tell our limbic system to take a knee, take that tactical pause, take a knee, face out, pull security, and drink some water, because it just might not be what your eyes first say it is. All right, and by doing that tactical pause and taking that knee, you get to analyze and slow that bus down. Another analogy I like to use, I often ask people, do you know why you don't often see advertising on taxi cabs? They're just moving too fast. You have no time to see the ad, much less analyze the ad, right? Whereas on buses, you're more likely because they move a little slower, stop more frequently, and you get to see, digest the ad, analyze, make a different decision. And all this happens in 4 to 6 seconds. A sergeant major once told me that. It only takes 4 to 6 seconds after the oh shit factor to make a good decision. The oh factor here is, my child is a little indifferent. Let me ask them what it is they feel. And when they do speak, listen, because with the opioid epidemics and suicide rates that we have, there is a serious side to this, because a lot of the people who just feel so boxed in and can't take it anymore because they're pressured to be someone they're not and there's nothing wrong with them, often take that very sad way out. Again, because people closest to them, that should be where they come to for their safe space, don't give them that. We're often prescribing our thoughts along with the doctor's medicines, and it just perpetuates itself and exacerbates the problem, which ironically and absurdly was not a problem, but we just refuse to listen. But yep, I'm wrapping up the book, and I wanted to do one more episode because I was thinking, what about, because there were examples in here of parents and children. Most of them were actually. And I think it just came down to, I asked myself, what is Dr. Rami really doing differently in the examples he gave? And all he was doing was listening. And you could say that's because you've already stated that he is an OTROVERT himself. That might be the case. But it matters, though. I often say hearing is involuntary, but listening is an art, and I truly believe that. And you have to disengage all your preconceived notions and all your developing of your counterattack. You have to put all that aside, not to mention the devices But in this context, I think the medical field for doctors like Dr. Rami, that you have to put away your preconceived notions. Sometimes not everything is medical. Just like in the parental context, your child being a little indifferent or seeming different to you does not make them a problem or make it a problem that needs drugs and isolation and labels of indifference, because who was it? Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivor and author, once said, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And in this context, it's the same. Because it looks different, it must be. And it's not. Like I said, our limbic system, though, it's how we're wired. But we can correct it by simply just doing that a lot more, of listening. All right? So until our next conversation, I just wanted to share that with you, and I'll get through the book and move on. My wife will be happy. But until our next conversation, you be good out there. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon. I'll see you.